And looks like we're live on Instagram. If you guys could give me a thumbs up on both platforms, let me know that you can hear me and see me all right. That would be helpful. All right, good. Thank you so much. All right, hey, how's everybody doing? And looks like we are live on, what is this, Facebook, Ivy Angela Rivera, Facebook, Ivy Rivera Psychic Medium, and YouTube at Ask Ivy. Like always, I want to ask you guys to please switch over to YouTube at Ask Ivy. Whatever platform you're on, it is YouTube that I try to focus on the most. I'm always trying to grow that channel. Also, thank you to my members on YouTube. I'm going to give a shout out here in a minute. I want to let everybody tune in though first. Today is my Dear Ivy show, free advice show. This is not a psychic mediumship show, so I'm not giving actual free readings today. If you need to book a reading with me, you can submit a 1-question email read, or you could book a reading with me anytime at ivyriverapsychicmedium.com. And if you are in the Middle East, for example, wherever you happen to be, if our time frames are not matching up with my availability, you can purchase a video reading anytime. Okay. So I have conquered every potential obstacle that we could have with time zones through the video option. And I do want to encourage everyone to start dropping your questions. So this is a play off of Dear Abby, which was a famous column that ran a really long time. I heard recently it's still going. So Dear Abby was this columnist I used to follow when I was a kid in the 80s and the 90s. And I always thought, I want to do this. I would love to do this. It was just a free advice column. And I brought this show around, I want to say a couple months ago, and you guys seem to really be enjoying it. So we had a really interesting one last time we did it about a month ago. And I think it was like heavily spiritual, paranormal, universal, kind of cosmic based. However, the questions here can be about anything. So the way Dear Abby worked, if someone was having a problem with a neighbor, if they were having a relationship problem, if they had a question about work, what should I do about this thing going on with my child? What should I do in this situation or that situation? She would just give advice about all types of things. Okay, so anything goes. Absolutely nothing is out of bounds. And we do invite interesting, curious, salty, anything, any kind of question. So we're going to start dropping those in the comment section wherever you're tuning in. And Jill, my beautiful producer, will be grabbing them and posting them here on YouTube. A couple quick announcements while we let everyone tune in and start dropping your questions. We do have coming up the eclipse. So April 8th is the eclipse. We are here in New York where I am in totality being able to see it. And I chose to work an event at Gray Cliff, Frank Lloyd Wright's beach property. Absolutely amazing. I'm going to be there from 11 to 4. And it did sell out at 200 heads. And then they added an additional 100 and that sold out right away. And there is a wait list. But I would highly recommend getting on the wait list if you're interested in attending that event, because you never know what may happen between now and then. So it's possible you could still get in. But I'll be doing readings. And if you already got your tickets to that event, you can go pre-book with me for the reading agenda. We also have coming up numerology class. So numerology course is 3 weeks and it's going to run on Mondays beginning May 2nd. So that's May 2nd, May 9th, May 16th, and 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. So you can attend the numerology course in person, online, or through video download afterward. Registration is now open. Also, my psychic mediumship course is evergreen and we are running it live. in person, refilming, doing it again. If you've been waiting to attend the psychic mediumship course and you've been like, I just want to make sure that I could be there in person, or I want to do it while, we can all be online together. And I've only really had the evergreen option here for quite a while. You're going to have an opportunity to do that in January. So January of 2025, registration is opening in the next couple days. And, that runs 28 weeks. But if you don't want to wait, again, it's evergreen. So you could jump in anytime. You have 2 different tiers to learning with that. And we still do live Q&As. You're still with your fellow students in the Google chat. You're still working with assistant teachers. You're still working with the public. You have all of this going on. So don't feel like you have to wait, okay? But it is time to refilm the videos. I filmed them during COVID, and they're just miserable for me anyways, to just even look at. So, I want to get some fresh, clean energy in there. So that'll be a big undertaking. But again, January of 2025, we are doing a live psychic mediumship course for the first time in quite a while. What else do we have going on? Oh, we have spiritual life coaching starts tomorrow. This will be the last announcement that I make. Spiritual life coaching is starting tomorrow. That runs, I believe, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It goes until April 25th. And if you're a late register, I can still get you in for that. But if you want to get certified in life coaching, this will be the path for you. And this is through Roots Revival Interfaith. So I'm excited about that. Also, just one more quick thing. The night of the eclipse, if you're not sure what you're going to do, if you're going to be in town, I'm going to be bringing back ghost hunts and historical tours. So during the in-season, we do them once a month, but during the winter, we've been shut down. So we are reopening. That'll be the beginning of our season, April 8th. So you can text the business phone 716-602-1391, and you can reserve your spot for the ghost hunts or the historical tours. That is limited space. Again, that's 716-602-1391. All right. I just want to say a quick thank you here to all of my YouTube members. Thank you for your continued support. You allow me to do new shows like this and to buy new equipment when I have to, which just recently happened. Let's hope that doesn't happen again as we move into Mercury in retrograde here. Thank you, Masubi, Lisa Cece, Jill Marie, Stella Marie, Cody, Kat Bathory, Heather G, Yolanda Fisher, Mary, Jordan, Audra, Erica Trotter, Angie Johnson, Robin Hartling, Chicken Mama, Tristan Marion, Edgar Villardes, Jennifer Cole, Deanna Altieri, Me Love 716, Andrea M, Jan Phillips, and Vanessa. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you so much. All right. So welcome, everyone. I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium, a Taino Airwalk. This is the Dear Ivy Show, where I give free advice on any topic. This is a play off of Dear Abby, the famous columnist. And we're going to go ahead and get right into it tonight. So post on any platform. Jill, my beautiful producer, will be taking those questions and moving them over here to YouTube. I do ask that wherever you're tuning in, you do switch to YouTube at Ask Ivy. It helps me out a lot. Wherever you are, though, please give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment of any kind, and do subscribe. And there on TikTok, if you guys could keep tapping that screen, give this video some love, share it. Greatly appreciated. Donations are always welcome. Okay. But again, this is a free show. And if you wanted to book an actual psychic mediumship reading with me, because that's not what we're doing during this show, you can go to ivyriverapsychicmedium.com for a reading or a party. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Jill, what do we have? So first question we have is from a Maria. Can you provide guidance on my spiritual journey? So what I would recommend if you are trying to level up with your spiritual development in any way, wherever you guys are, you're going to really want to focus on your day-to-day habits. You're going to, instead of getting into the deep waters of meditation and the certifications and finding a guru or a leader. You're really going to want to instead focus on what the universe is showing you every single day of your life in the mundane tasks. So pay attention to who is around you. Pay attention to the conversations that are being had. Pay attention to the conversations that are not being had. Okay. What is the actual energy behind a lot of the interactions you're having? Pay attention to your inner monologue. I recently found out something like 65% of humans don't have an inner monologue, but I still believe that even if you are one of those people, you can still receive intuitive guidance from your higher mind, from your spirit guides, from your ancestors. So pay attention to the thoughts, the messages that pop in your head. And a lot of understanding how to develop spiritually is just being mindful, being present, instead of being upset about the past and heavy and depressed or anxious about the future and nervous and upset and trying to control everything from a place of ego, which is fear, manipulation, and control. You're just in the flow. You're just in the present moment. And when you're like that, whether you have inner monologue or not, what you're going to notice is that your attention is drawn to certain things. Again, things that aren't being said, things that are coming into your head in observation, things that are being said and are happening around you. And it's through that willingness, I think, to really engage with the mundane, everyday detail that we develop the most spiritually, even though that's not typically what we're told. But it's true. And that is because you're developing your integrity, you're developing your character, your morality, your ethical code of conduct. You're learning discernment. You're learning judgment, right? What is a high vibration versus what is a low vibration in the people and situations I'm observing. And through the decisions that you make in regards to those things, you're going to develop as a person, as an individual, and then, and only then, can you really develop spiritually. Anyone else who claims that it doesn't work that way is going in reverse. They're trying to level jump. And these are usually the people who claim like they killed their ego, or, they no longer live in this dimension. Now they only reside in higher dimensions, or they're from a special planet. And it's like, none of that's real. Okay. They're not accomplishing anything. They're basically treading water. They're going to have a hard fall. And they're very likely just wasting time entirely and, may have to reincarnate and start all over again. So, don't forget, we are human beings, meaning we are spiritual creatures having a human experience. And it is here on the earth plane that we're supposed to spend the majority of our time and attention in order to actually develop. That's why we came here. Okay, so everyone wants to discard this part of it, and we can't do that. But that is a great question. Thank you, Maria. We're going to move on to another one. Deshauna wants to know, what steps can I take to manifest my goals? So I think that when you are trying to, also YouTube members, if you submit a question, you get moved right up to the front of the line. So I think that, and this is, just good for everyone, when you're trying to manifest your goals, I have found that the best thing to do is to have an outline of what it is that you want to accomplish. You can say you're manifesting it, you're creating a list, you're creating a vision board, you can call it whatever you want, but essentially you're coming up with an idea. If it helps for you to be visual, or if it helps for you to write things down, it makes it concrete for you, then you should do that. So you figure out what it is that you want to do and be specific about it, because the universe does not react in the way you may hope to willy-nilly type of behaviors or attitudes that are very questionable. I don't really know, or sort of a careless approach to things. That's exactly what the universe is going to give back. So you're either going to get nothing, no assistance, or you're going to get a weird hodgepodge of like mixed matched messages from the universe. If you are concrete, the universe will be concrete. It's like claiming it. instead of being like, oh, I hope, I wish, I pray, I want, I think maybe, but I have no self esteem. You can't come at the universe that way. So know what you want, make it concrete. But before you can really enter into a phase of creation that's going to take hold and pick up speed, and you're going to have fluidity, we have to remove the blocks. You have to remove the obstacles. You have to remove what is toxic. You have to remove anything that you're holding on to, clutching on to, whether this be past life, from your childhood, shadow work that's undone. And we have to also realize in that part of the process that healing is not linear. It's not going from A to B. I went to therapy for a year and now I'm healed. That's behind me. No, none of that. It doesn't work that way. It's cyclical. It's like layers of an onion. It's going to come back around again and again and again. So expect that even if there were things you thought you had overcome, you had alchemized and transmuted, there may be more work to do there. Likely, there will be more work to do there. And it could resurrect, especially in regards to your goals, because the whole point of you actually being here on earth is to work through things, to learn, to grow. So that's a great forum through which the universe may say, here's an opportunity for you to grow. And if you want that thing, if you want that goal, if you strive to achieve, you're going to have to get this done first in order to have it. So there could be a lot of drive and ambition there. I think it's important for you to be really honest about what you need to let go of, what blocks and obstacles you have, and know that this is a great time when you have set goals to maybe ask for extra help. So if it's something beyond your level of expertise, or if you've already tried to clear some of those issues up, to no avail, it may be a good time to throw some money at the problem and like get a therapist, for example, or watch some videos, watch documentary, get some self-help books, talk to people who have accomplished what you want to accomplish. And it's really there when the path gets cleared. So it's like every time the bus stops, somebody's got to get off. In order for a new door to open, another door has to close. You remove the blocks, and then we have flow of energy, and you can continue to create, and the universe will give you what it is that you're asking for. And at this point, you can actually grab onto it. You can reach it. All right. That is an exciting question. Have a good time with all of that. Edgar has a question here. Advice, please, on how to get children that are clients to be cooperative and listen to me during sessions. I set boundaries with them, but some kids refuse to respect them or to listen to me. Yeah. So as a therapist, I'm sure you were given some tools to use with children, and I'm sure most of them went right out the window as soon as you actually entered into a dynamic with them. They're very manipulative, and they're very willful also, in that, you can have, especially with kids who are in therapeutic situations, sometimes things like, and I can't prescribe or diagnose, but parental defiant disorder, so you may be dealing with kids who are willful because they're children, willful because they know what is within their life contract. I'll talk about that too. And then it's contagious, so if you ever have them all together, it's like fire. I have so much respect for teachers because of this. I went one day, I did substitute teaching, and I was like, never again. I cannot do this. Some people are cut out for it. Some people are not. You may want to look more seriously also at whether or not that's your calling. If it's not part of your life contract, work with children. And again, I'm not doing readings today, but if it's not part of your life contract to work with children of that age group, you may just be put there to learn some things and move on. Okay. So with a skill like this, don't be too hard on yourself if you never perfect it. Okay. If this is not the group you're ever meant to work with, there are other people who will naturally be able to move into an environment like that and maybe not have any of the problems that you're having. Maybe they succeed very, very quickly and smoothly and easily, and it's not supposed to be that way for you. So there is a time in life to understand when you're butting your head up against a wall, and that is not even your cup of tea. That's not even your lane. You're out of your lane. You're overreaching, know which is which. But in regards to a lot of the kids that you may be dealing with, children are willful because they're children. And that's a healthy way to be. More adults could use a good dose of being willful for sure, in the right direction. But I think that kids, I call it the kid contract, kids know when they came to Earth to accomplish certain tasks. They know what their life contract is. Whereas you look at an adult, a lot of 50-year-olds, for example, are some of the most lost people I will ever work with. They don't know who they are. They don't know why they're here. They're basically starting from scratch because they allowed society and institutions and parents and whatnot to take away from them who they are. Well, kids don't have that yet. They remember who they are. They know what they came here to do, and they don't care about anything else. All right. So they basically want to accomplish whatever is within their life contract, and they don't appreciate. Susanna Cruz, thank you so much for the donation. And they don't appreciate you coming in to show them another direction or to intervene in any way, even if it is helpful for them. And we see this even more so with kids that are gifted and talented, with kids that have they're other abled, like autism, for example. We see this with children who have gone through a lot of trauma or abuse, any type of neglect. So we have to remember that the light workers and the healers of the universe come here with difficult contracts. They come here as the marginalized, minorities, disabilities, born into problematic family dynamics, for example. And so their knowledge of their life contract, their will to stick to that life contract is going to be way higher than your average kid who was born into a cush rich family and it's going to be boats and noodle salad their whole life. Okay. That's not who you're dealing with. So know who you're dealing with and how to sort of energetically approach them. And otherwise, they'll just eat you alive. Okay. But good luck with that. And, again, most importantly, know whether or not that's your ultimate group you're supposed to be working with. Or are you just there temporarily? Masubi has a question. Hi, Ivy. Can I please get some advice for when you're feeling stuck spiritually or on your spiritual journey? Thank you so much. Okay, great question. So Masubi says, what do you do when you feel stuck on your spiritual journey? Well, it's a sign that you're not doing something in your life that you need to do. That could be processing what you've already learned. That could be working on patience with yourself and understanding that spiritual development actually comes from self-development. Self-development comes first. Spiritual development is a consequence of that. That's like a side effect of self-development. You may be looking in the wrong areas. You may not be acknowledging how much you've been through. You probably need to spend more time saying, my God, I'm strong. My God, I'm smart. My God, I'm powerful. Holy shit, I have been through the ringer. Wow. Have you taken enough time to do that? Because that's where the money is, that's where the gold is. That's where your level up is karmically. You recognizing how far you've come and spending time embracing that and giving yourself the kudos that you really deserve is you saying to the universe, I acknowledge my higher mind, my higher self, my place in the order of things, and I am honoring myself. And the universe will say, okay, that's what we've been waiting for. And you could feel a burst, an increase in your psychic, mediumistic, and empathic abilities immediately from something like that, sort of like having a Kundalini or a download or an awakening. And I think that another good thing to do is to focus on any blocks and obstacles that may be in the way. So if you have toxic energy that you're investing in, toxic people or relationships or ways of thinking, okay, so look at your relationship to other people. Look at your relationship to yourself. Look at your relationship to your habits, your money, food, whatever it is, your day-to-day lifestyle, stress. Look at your relationship to those things and see if there are blocks and obstacles. Also, look at anything from past life issues, childhood trauma, any other types of insecurities, blocks, obstacles that may be there. And you normally know that they're there because they're always kind of there, right? It's like a dark cloud looming over you. They show up at night in your dreams through stress dreaming and negative thoughts. Spirit is always letting you know this thing is still here for you to deal with, and be willing to work through or release those blocks and obstacles, including shadow work, so that you are more willing to make the changes that need to be made. Because usually when people have a block to their spiritual development, or like a lack of satisfaction with where they are in their spiritual development, it's because there's something they didn't do. So it's usually like you received instruction that there was a change you were supposed to make, or there was somebody you were supposed to cut off, or you were supposed to create this new job for yourself, or you were supposed to do whatever it is. You were supposed to do something and you have refused to do it. So you're stuck. You're basically in a big fat timeout chair. And until you're willing to change your attitude, your perspective, and take some action in a positive direction, go high vibration versus low vibration, you may remain stuck. Okay, so look at those couple key areas, and it's usually in a moment of realization, and you're back in the flow. You're feeling reconnected, and like there's progress going on there. Okay, I would also just say to everyone, don't make spiritual development the end goal. Right? I know I said this earlier, but like remember, it's in the mundane, it's in the everyday tasks and relationships, the way you think primarily. At the root of everything in a human experience, where we're striving to be more spiritual creatures, it's always going to come down to your mind. Okay, because you can't hide that from the universe. So I don't care if you've got everything else in order, every relationship in order, your money in order. If your mind isn't right, you haven't even started on that project yet. All right, let's move on to another one. Hi, Mama. Hi. We have one coming in from Vanessa. How can I connect with spirit to know what they want me to know at this point in my life? Well, again, these aren't psychic mediumship readings, so I'm just going to go with a generic answer on that, and this will actually be for everyone. If you want to know more about what spirit is saying to you, you need to learn the language. You need to learn the lost language. I've dedicated literally my life. I threw out my journalism degree and 10 years of practice and scholarships and blah, blah, and I have dedicated my life to teaching this. So I will never have another answer for that, unless you're getting a reading. What you need to do is learn the language. If you don't know what spirit's telling you, you don't know the language. That's it. Psychic, mediumistic, and empathic ability all has a separate language in which you are receiving messages from the world around you, from your higher mind, from spirits. And if you don't know that language, you don't know what's going on. You could mix match. You could be taking bad information coming from spirits you shouldn't be talking to. So the easiest way is for you to get educated. Go to psychicmediumshipcourse.com. All right. You could join anytime. It's evergreen. But again, I announced it at the beginning of today's show. We're doing an in-person January 2025 registration. Okay. Is now opening. We're getting that up on the website. All right, so learn the language and you will never have to ask that question again for the rest of your life. If you cannot hear spirit, then, every time they come to help you, you're the problem, because communication is a two-way street. So think of communication with spirit as being the same as communication with yourself. You have to listen to your gut. You have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to your higher mind. You have to listen to your body. You have to listen to your heart. You have to listen to your feelings. You have to listen to all that. It's the same way talking with another human being. Okay. If you were talking over your friend or your lover all the time, they would get real sick of being around. Right. And so, not to do that, to also listen. Well, same thing with spirit. If you can't listen, it's really not going anywhere. Masubi says, thank you so much, Ivy. You are welcome. Okay. And Michaela, thank you for the heart. Thank you, everyone on TikTok. Please keep tapping this video and share. All right, we're going to move on to another one from Pam. I recently started talking to a guy from the gym. Any advice for how to know the difference between friendly and romantically interested? Well, there's probably faking it. I mean, I think that when people are fragile, and men are very, very fragile egos, we tiptoe, right? You upset a man, you could, get murdered. I mean, just like they have very little, they haven't evolved a lot in regards to self-awareness and emotional intelligence or intuitive intelligence. Now, God bless them. They're working through some of that and they're getting started on that journey, as a group, hopefully right about now. However, it does create an imbalance. So when you're dealing with someone who's giving you mixed signals, you could be dealing with someone who has a fragile ego, meaning they have a fear of rejection. Now, everyone to a degree has a fear of rejection. And so the easiest thing for you to do is nothing, absolutely nothing. You're not going to feed their fragility, and you're not going to chase them so that they feel less fragile, because you'll just be chasing them forever. You'll just be wiping their hiney till the end of time. It sets a bad tone, a bad energy. You need to be pursued. And so when someone is not showing you blatantly that they want to be with you, if they're not coming up to you, if they're not starting that conversation, right? If you walk by and you say hello, if they're not kind of following up, if they're not being open, if they aren't trying to get those digits, they're not setting up that date, enough. That's it. That's your answer right there. This is not a big cosmic psychic, phantom question or answer. It's very obvious what's going on. They're either too weak to pursue, and you should leave them right there so they can work on themselves with that. Or it's possible they're not interested, and you should leave them right there with that. Okay. So at the very first sign of rejection or lack of engagement or lack of clarity on what someone wants from you, you should simply keep moving on with your life and forget about them. And if they want your time, attention, energy, or affection, they will simply come and ask for it. Whether they're fragile or not, they will do that. Okay. Every human being is designed to go after what they want. So leave it at that, but never pursue. Okay. And don't spend or waste, any time asking. It will be obvious if it is attraction. Also, there's a lot of question about, well, what if they're getting over something? Leave them there. That's what I already said. Leave them there. If they're hesitant, if they're healing, if they're unsure about leave them there. That is not the person for you. You could be friends. You could have banter. You could do whatever, but you move on. Okay. If they're chasing you, then it's a go. It's a romantic go. Maybe. Okay. All right. Great question. Thank you, Pam. I love that. Let's see what else we got. Sweet on TikTok wants to know, my father recently passed away and I have been dreaming of him. The dreams are not good. How can I figure out what they mean? I would recommend to everyone to get on my early bird waitlist for my symbology book, which involves a ton of dream analysis. You can go to rev.ivy.rivera@yahoo.com, or just even drop a comment here saying add me, and I'll get you on the early bird waitlist for that. But symbology is a big part of mediumship. Symbology is a huge part of dream analysis. And when we have a deceased loved one who's coming and visiting us in dreams, we have a coming together of both of those worlds. And the symbology is everything. So pay attention to what you notice in those dreams. Keep a notepad and pen in your bed. When you wake up, do not roll over, do not pee, don't get a drink of water, don't talk to anyone or pet the cat or anything. Make sure you are jotting these things down immediately, because it will pull out of your memory and it's hard to get back there. What we want to also do is wake up in the morning, and with your morning cup of coffee or your tea, you want to spend 10 to 20 minutes with this list of symbols that you wrote down. Now, when you're meditating on these symbols, you're asking your dad, I think you said it was, and you're asking your guides, especially your joy guide who watches over your mental, emotional, and spiritual development, and your higher mind. You're asking them to show you what these symbols mean. Also, you're triggering in that process the memories from the dream. And so while you're in this sort of light state of meditation, you're like a deja vu, pulling the information back to the forefront of your mind, even though it had seemed as though it was lost. So we have a class up on the website called Dreams where I teach you how to do this. You may want to check that out. But you pull that information forward. Now, once you pull that information forward, you should know who was there. You should know if there were conversations that went on. You should know the atmosphere. You may even see additional symbols. You'll remember if these dreams were repeated or you woke up and then it stopped, but it picked up at a different part. And you're going to ultimately remember the feeling, the emotion. Now, this may stick with you regardless. The feeling, the emotion. The feeling of a dream trumps everything else. And this is how you'll know in a situation where you're being visited by a loved one, especially, and it's unpleasant, you'll know whether or not that was real. Because if you have a poor experience, usually it's because there's some unfinished business there. You have unrest surrounding their passing. You may not have had a proper goodbye. There's a lack of closure. Maybe you worry your father is not okay. There's something unresolved between the two of you. You're going to sort of concoct potentially these, what I call subconscious dreams that are coming from you, not him. And it's your attempt to fix things, to rewrite the ending, to create some kind of closure. And you want to be able to know the difference. I feel like I got off track on what I was saying there. Hopefully this is making some sense. Okay, but essentially this, let me just reiterate. Okay, you have visit dreams and then you have subconscious dreams. And when you're having an actual visit dream from a deceased loved one, they will come and they will bring you peace. They will bring you answers. They will bring you maybe joy. It could be sad to see them go. That's true. But while you're with them, you'll notice that you have telepathic communication. Their mouth does not move and the encounters are more brief. When it's subconscious dreaming, meaning you've concocted this thing for some unresolved issues you may have, it's going to be negative. It may be very, very intense. It may feel low level or toxic. And you wake up with no sense of resolution. Okay. So you're going to have to get educated on what's happening in the situation. And you want to dive deep, maybe therapeutically even, okay, into any unresolved issues. That's a deeper conversation because we can also have spirits that are earthbound. In the case of your father, I'm not giving psychic mediumship readings tonight, but I will assure you he has crossed into the light. So for anyone else tuning in, you're like, well, I feel like these were real visit dreams, but they were negative. Well, that can also happen if a spirit decides to be earthbound and it's not a positive situation for them. It happens. I'm not going to sugarcoat, but sweet on TikTok, okay? It's like for you, your father has crossed. So he is in the light. So it will come with a positive energy when he visits. And again, the feeling trumps everything. All right. So look at what you may be concocting subconsciously. Michaela says, great information. Good. I hope that helped some. We have another one coming in here from an A Rough Empress, also on TikTok. Any advice for how to find my father or his relatives? Well, I think the easiest thing to do when you're dealing with like adoption or estrangement or for whatever reasons, right? We're struggling to find the roots. I went through a lot of that in my own family because there was a lot of genocide on my tribe, Taino Arawak, and that's Puerto Rican native, okay, Caribbean native. And the easiest thing for you to do in a situation is to go directly to the ancestors and know that they've already been reaching out to you. So the minute your mind switches over to an awareness of wanting to put your roots together, right? Your familial line, your genealogy, whatever it is, your ancestors are automatically going to show up, and any deceased loved ones, okay, are going to show up and they're going to try to help you put it together. Watch for things even like, pennies from heaven. So pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, tokens showing up. Pay attention to the dates that show up on those things. Pay attention to what crosses your social media feed or your Google feed. It's not always Zuckerberg. It's not always Google. It's not always a TikTok algorithm spying on you. Sometimes it's your guides and your ancestors and your higher mind. So you want to pick up what they're laying down and you want to follow it, one step to the next blindly often. But usually what's going to happen is that they're going to lead you to graves. They're going to lead you to burial sites. They're going to lead you to cousins, aunties, uncles, to other people in the family that can really help kind of rapidly, whether they're living or deceased, break it down even further. So it's an exciting journey. It really is magnetizing when you put out to the universe that you want to attract this person or this family back to you. The universe is all in on that because it's part of all of our life contracts. And your biological father, for example, whatever, your relatives, right? You signed a contract onto them before you came to Earth. So that is a strong bond, even if you've never met them, even if you're not even sure their names or whatever, and it will work. But be open to following that path. And I want to say you have to also negate nothing. When I got my tribal papers, I remember other Puerto Ricans saying to me, "How did you get your tribal papers?" And I said, "What do you mean by that? Who do you think you are to say, why did I get my tribal papers?" You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we have these ideas about how we are or are not connected to our ancestors and our roots, based on the obstacles that have been put there. And you're going to want to remove those. Okay. And understand it is like a magnet. We are drawn together. Okay. That is universal order. And that's, there's a cosmic power behind that. Also talk to your deceased loved ones, your ancestors on that side of the family, and be like, bring it to me and start having meetings with them on a regular basis. That was something I started doing as a kid. Let's move on to another one. Thank you so much for that question. That's a great question. I love that. That's really, God bless you on that journey. That's very exciting and it helps you to understand so much more about, maybe more than you ever even realized, who you are, why you're here, why you think the way you do, why you're connected to things. Yeah, it's amazing. Susanna Cruz asks, my grandfather Jack is doing comfort care. He is truly an amazing man. Any advice to help him from suffering? We treat our dogs better than we treat our humans. We, especially here in America, because it's a for-profit system, the medical system, we drag out things that shouldn't always be dragged out. And I'm not passing any kind of judgment on the care that he's receiving or what he's chosen to do, or, how you guys are managing this. Ultimately, it's kind of up to him, sort of. I mean, we have so many laws restricting us. It's not really. I think the best thing that you could do is to realize that this isn't your job. It isn't your journey. You are simply a supporting character in his journey. You will also want to observe why it is that you're part of this experience. You're going to want to ask, what am I supposed to be learning from this? What changes would I like to see made in the future? Maybe on a societal level, but also on a personal level. How would I do it different? And you want to, instead of sort of squelching the flow of positive energy between you and him and even other loved ones and him, you want to use your manifestation power, your empathic ability to open that flow of energy up, because that's the best thing we could do for anyone in a situation like this. And what we want to do is visualize that he is focusing on himself, that he's doing whatever he needs to do for him. When hospice comes in a situation where we have someone dealing with end of life care, for example, we would hear from hospice and the pamphlets they hand out, and their guidance is to let that loved one know that this is their time and that you are here to support them in whatever they need or want, and that you want them to put their focus back on them. They don't need to stick around for any of us. We are going to take care of ourselves. We are going to take care of everything. And it's sort of, in a way, the way hospice had said it to me was, you're giving permission. And you may be the only one who's doing that. And you may not know how important that really is. Also, other people may not appreciate you saying it out loud. Okay. A lot of people hear that and they're like, never, never, stay here with us, grandpa, stay here with us. It's like, get over yourselves. So you just have to say, listen, the best way for me to do this may be like talking to him quietly, or, whispering in his ear at some point, or like I just said, doing it energetically. So you're essentially having a connection with him and your higher minds, right? My higher mind wants to talk to your higher mind. My inner child wants to play with your inner child. And you're connecting with him telepathically and energetically, letting him know that you are keeping the flow open, you are bringing him positivity, and you want him focused on himself. And that will help to give him permission to do whatever work, if he's decided to stay here on earth till the end. Okay, he's not going to take assisted, passing or anything. If he's even eligible, then he needs to be able to process what he's going through without distraction from everyone else. Okay. I would also help him to block a little bit. I noticed that, in times like this, a lot of loved ones come and they clutch and they need and they take and they, distract the person's energy from being focused on what it really should be, which is, themselves, their thoughts. So send him protection in those areas and help him to block that out. That's a great question. We also have coming up, I don't even have it on the website yet, but I have a class called Death Coaching, and it's 2 hours long. And that's an old class. That's been around forever. It's one of my best sellers. It's part of the psychic mediumship course too. But I am offering, I just posted it yesterday, a death coaching certification program. And so if you guys want to get on the early bird waitlist for that, you can email me at revivyrivera@yahoo.com. That's revivyrivera@yahoo.com and say DC. Okay. And I'll get you on the early bird waitlist for that as well. We are going to move on to another one. This is from Michaela Garcia. Advice on how to stand up for myself and set healthy boundaries with family, friends, boyfriend. I won't say a lot of things to avoid any hurt feelings, even though your feelings are getting hurt from it. So you're willing to hurt yourself, but not set boundaries with someone else. So we could start right there. But to avoid any hurt feelings, even though they most likely deserve it. Well, there you go. I mean, you just answered your own question too. I'm an overthinker. That's not the problem. You're an understarter. I realize that's not good for me because it drains me. Well, sounds like you know yourself pretty well. Sounds like you know them pretty well. Sounds like you know the situation, the blocks, the obstacles, and you're unwilling to do it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. And you need to start saying that to yourself. You need to become disciplined. If we are going to achieve what we came to earth to achieve in life, we have to push ourselves. And that requires telling yourself no. And then maintaining that boundary that you set with yourself and taking action. And you're just not doing any of that. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. Bottom line is, you're not putting in effort to do it. You have to do it. Maybe, it's coming from fear. Maybe it's coming from self-doubt. Maybe it's coming because you want to say, well, I'm an overthinker. My grandmother was an overthinker. My great-grandmother was an overthinker, and da-da-da-da-da. But it's essentially avoidance and escapism. And if you cannot conquer it on your own, and it's holding your life back, you will want to throw some money at the problem and get the tools necessary and talk to a therapist to get the tools. But ultimately, you could spend $1 million on this. They could give you every great tool in the world. And if you're not willing to pick up those tools, you won't succeed. So do it. That's what you need to do. That's it. I also want to say this, that setting boundaries is not as complicated as we sometimes think. I made a post the other day about, you'll see these on Instagram all the time. It always says something to the tune of, if you're happy about something, if it brings you joy, hide it. Never share that. Don't talk about it. And I hate that shit. And I'll tell you why. Because it is really this at the root of that problem. It is the patriarchy, it is capitalism, it is abuse in toxic relationships or neglect in toxic relationships. It is a system that we've all been born into that tells us to hide our happiness, our needs, our feelings, our joy, our ambitions, our desire to have mutual supportive relationships, to silence ourselves. And that is some sick shit. So if we don't start breaking out of this as a whole, as a group, and so see yourself, Michaela, as a contributor to the revolution, okay? No, I am happy. No, I will speak on my joy. I will speak on my goals or my new project or my dreams. I will expect that you will show me respect, and that since I honor you and since I give to you emotionally, mentally, energetically, I am going to expect that you will also reciprocate. When we raise the bar on what it is that we expect to receive from other people by being raw and honest about who we are, how we feel, what we deserve, that's when we get it. And it doesn't have to be some big dramatic thing. It could just be you walking away. It could be that you already know who you need to cut off. Could be that you're not going to waste your time and energy anymore. People know what to do. And if people choose not to do the right thing, let them lie in their bed. And if that means you leaving, so be it. You know, people don't need direction. I will never go to a grown adult and be like, could you be more honest with me? You know, could you give me more attention since, you know, I asked for it and I need it and I give you so much, you know, can I have this from you? You know, like, bite me, seriously. No. If they don't know how to do that, it's because they've chosen not to do that. They're grown. They're grown. No, 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 no. Don't feed the problem. Don't enable it, and don't make the world a worse place by you know, feeding this problem when we need to be growing out of it. So find a good motivator, but it can be very silent. There's not a lot to this. It's simply, I'm detaching. Bye. You had your chance. I'm out, you know. That's all it really takes. Okay, we're going to move on to another one. This is from a Jill Marie. I know certain astrological events and times of year, the veil between the worlds is thin. Is the eclipse one of these times? I need to know if I need to be prepared for increased activity. I would say so. I mean, from what I've felt from the planets, I like to say I'm not an astrologer, even though I've been studying since I was like 13 years old. But yeah, the veil between the worlds is thin during that time. We've just entered into, like you said, eclipse season. And I also like to warn people that one of the things that happens is, and some astrologers would like argue with me or say like, no, that's not going to be an issue, but people just start dropping like flies. You know, they start like, if they were teetering, they may go. And this happens to pets, this happens to people, this happens, you know. There seems to be a lot of paternal energy where this is happening this time. There may also be a lot of just parental energy in general. So some mom activity. I don't know how astrologically accurate that is. I would say look into that. But, you know, when we have a lot of people passing away, or we have a lot of people transitioning in some major way in their life, that also affects the collective. And that can create a feeling, you know, like the veil is very thin between the worlds as well. And what do we mean? So when Jill's asking about the veil, she's talking about what gets discussed a lot in the month of October, right? The veil between the worlds is lifted, meaning like you could see the dead, or the dead that have been waiting to cross over into the light, will, and we're connecting with our ancestors more so than we ever have. And there is some truth to that. Um, but it also happens every day. It's happening all the time. And that would be if you're going into a deep state of meditation. That'll be if you're dozing off or you're waking up, okay, out of the sleep state. And so, yeah, with the veil being lifted, think about what that is for you when you are in that world between the two where you hear things that you were not able to hear when you were awake. For example, you are speaking or hearing languages that you were not aware of, or that you even knew yourself. You're seeing spirits. If you've ever been in that world where you're like awake, but you still see the spirits or the things in your room, you're in that atmosphere still, yet you're awake. You're like, wait, what is happening? You're between the worlds. Okay. The veil is lifted. These are things that are always there, but we're not aware of them. We've learned to block them out and tune them out for the most part, until that veil is lifted. So yeah, it's going to be a time for sure. I would be prepared, Jill, especially knowing, right, that you're quite like psychic. It's going to be more intense for psychics, mediums, and empaths. Yep. Michaela said, let them theory. Right. And thank you. Yes. Back to Michaela's point here, just let them do what they want to do. People will show you exactly who they are and what they want to do and what they don't want to do, more importantly. So, hey, it's on them. You just have to reach a point where you don't care anymore. Ask Ivy. Okay, TJ, your tenacity on Instagram. Is it possible to try too hard to listen to spirit? Would that block the messages? Absolutely. So great question, TJ. This is part of my psychic mediumship course. We actually spend maybe a full 2 hours on this. I don't know. I may even revisit it several times. We do actually revisit it several times, because I do a 2-hour training called Blocker Day. And then I force you to be in situations where you're doing this or someone's doing this to you. There are absolutely blocks that can occur because of you, not spirit, not even your circumstances, not anyone else, like a sitter, for example. If you give readings, if you do tarot or Reiki or anything like this, it's just you, and it's coming from you overreaching, demanding, wanting, being needy. That is all ego. Ego is fear, manipulation, and control. So when you say to spirit, or you say to your higher mind, or you say to the universe, I want more, I want more, that is a societal construct. You have to look at your roots. You have to look at capitalism, for example, and you have to say, where is this greed coming from? Because the natural flow in the human experience is very, very willing. It's more observant than anything. It is allowing, it's acceptance, it's being present, it's embracing of truth. It's not full of demand. Okay, so what in your roots, in your programming, do you still need to let go of? I train my students that they're never going to get good, for example, at giving psychic mediumship readings if they don't learn how to first remove themselves as the block. So a good example of this is that my students will be giving readings and they're maybe embarrassed. They feel like they're not going to do a good job, or that they don't want to start giving readings to the public because, oh my God, what if I don't actually have this ability? Or what if what I say to my client doesn't make any sense to them? So you really need to take on an attitude. This is what I have them do, is take on an attitude of, I don't care. I am simply here to be of service, which means I'm going to show up. That's my responsibility. And my only real responsibility is to show up, and I'm going to open my mouth. And that's essentially what you're saying, TJ. I'm here. I'm on earth. I'm living. I'm being mindful. I'm going to show up. That is me being of service to myself and to the universe. And I don't care. I'm not going to stress to have it be something more than that. And that creates flow, where you had been blocking. All right. So we're going to move on to another one from Mexicarina. That is so cute on TikTok. Mexicarina asks, how can I figure out what spiritual abilities I have? Well, you could book it's called an intuitive ability assessment. Go onto my website, ivyrivera.psychicmedium.com, and I will literally tell you what you have going on, what levels you're at, what you could do with it potentially. And you can go from there. So I would say that, the short of it though, is that you need to break down the 3 different categories. And this is where a lot of people screw up. So a lot of people believe that spiritual abilities, so to speak, are a gift, and it isn't. It's innate in every single human being on earth. And that breaks down to empathic ability, mediumistic ability, meaning hearing from spirits, spirits trying to communicate with you, and psychic ability, aka clairvoyance. So no one alive on earth is here, without using their gut instinct every day, their psychic ability every day. We have to stay alive. So you want to understand that it's in you. You don't have special gifts. People can have different abilities to different extents, for sure. You could have a heightened ability in one area or 2 areas, and you can grow these abilities, but it's already there. And you just really need to break down what you have going on into the 3 categories. So this is a big part, again, of my psychic mediumship course, is that my students come in and they say, for example, how do I know if it's my imagination versus a spirit actually trying to communicate with me? How do I know if it's just something I'm thinking versus an actual psychic prophecy that I'm having? How do I know if it's this versus that? And I say, well, we have to start at the base. We have to break down, is it psychic? Is it mediumistic? Or is it empathic ability? Where did the information come from? And so you're going to need to get educated on that. Once you have it in the right category, you could toy with it a lot more. And you could understand where you have like natural skill set and where you want to build different skills. Yeah, from there we go on to the clairs, and that's breaking down the 6 different categories of clairs: clairempathy, clairvoyance, clairaugustine, claircognizance, and on and on and on we go. And then we take it into bite-sized pieces from there and get deeper, 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 deeper. Okay. Great question. All right, we're going to move on to another one from Manny. Any advice on how we can help my mom in her older years? She lives alone and she's 90 years old now. Okay, 90-year-old mother. How can you help her? I think that this is a tough area because older women struggle the most with knowing how to care for themselves. So get educated on the negative patriarchal effects and how it has to be alchemized, transmuted into feminism for your mom. Now, you can't do the work for her, but you can help her to see what she could do for herself to exit patriarchal conditions, which say sacrifice yourself, sacrifice and give all your labor away for free. Never stop to think, never stop to put yourself first or take care of your health, never allow yourself to really grow and develop. Everything for the patriarchy, everything for the patriarchy, everything for the patriarchy. Well, when these women hit, there goes TikTok. I literally can't say anything. They hate me. So, when we see these women getting older, 60s, 70s, 80s, and certainly by 90s, you may see that part of the reason they're staying here for so long and they're struggling in a lot of ways is because they haven't learned how to process things. They were never really allowed for the sake of survival in the system. So you want to look at what feminism really means. How can she put her attention and focus and energy back on herself her self care, her ability to process what her life has been, her ability to also do shadow work if need be, and to be less conditioned to be active all the time. And even if she's reaching a point at 90 years old where she's, less active in the traditional sense of the word, TikTok came back and then they got rid of me again. And they're going to say no one was there. That's what they're going to say because I used the word patriarchy. TikTok is going to say, "Oh, you didn't have any people in your life," even though, right, Jill? There are a bunch of people in the live. Eat it. So, anyways, I don't care. I don't care what happens to TikTok. They are the biggest restrictors of free speech, okay, in my book. So, we want to help her in ways that she can really accept and to understand that being busy isn't always necessarily, especially at 90 years old, actual activity. It could just be her mental state. It could be emotional blocks and obstacles. One of the other things you can do um, for her instead of, trying to like educate her on this or encourage more of this, it may just be easier for you to create these types of environments. And so one of the things I see with ladies who are like in their 80s and 90s and even 100 or over 100 and they're hanging on real tight is that they don't know how to silence the environment. So there are a ton of people and busyness around them all the time, and they're feeding the problem. The TV is always on. There's always some nonsense on the radio. There's always some high volume toxicity around, right? Create an environment of flow for her. Maybe she would prefer to have like classical music on or something tribal or more silence, less people bothering her all the time. Get to know what you think is going to help her to have that peace of mind and to really connect with where she is and where she's been and where she really authentically wants to go. And you could do this energetically. So, like I was instructing to someone earlier, you could sit with her energetically and you can say, "My higher mind wants to talk to your higher mind. My inner child wants to play with your inner child." And you're assisting her in knowing, where she needs to be and what she needs to do. And you're sending her that energy and also listening to what her higher mind wants to say to you about things that can be eliminated in the environment or things that you could do to help her. This is part of the death coaching course. We have the class already, but the death coaching course that's coming up, it's about learning how to talk to them when they're sort of playing both sides of the fence. They got one foot in the afterworld and they've got one foot in this world. They'll tell you what they need, but they may not do it verbally and physically. It may have to come more energetically. So just be a good listener at this point. But it is hardest for them. And TikTok can block me all they want. What a stupid thing to block me from saying. It is hardest for the older women to go because they have been so conditioned to take care of everyone else and to fully ignore themselves to the core that when they reach the end of the road, not only do they not know really how to stop mentally, energetically, literally taking care of everyone else, but they don't know how to get centered back onto themselves. And once they do, it's a long journey to process everything that happened throughout their life. They've maybe never really done that. So there's a lot happening there. It's a good lesson for all of us. There are a lot of ways to support her, Manny. Great question. We're going to move on to another one from Lori Weber. Magda, is it possible to be able to connect to your own loved ones? Yeah, that's mediumship. I can connect to others, but never seem to hear from my own loved ones. You're probably blocking. I pray to hear from my brother who just, okay, I lost a year ago. Yes. So again, you need to learn the language. A lot of people don't decide that they want to be trained in the language of psychic mediumship until they lose a loved one that's very close, a child, a spouse, a sibling, a parent, maybe a dog, so a pet. And that's where they say, okay, I'm ready to do this. How do I do this? So you have to learn the language. Yes, you are hearing from your deceased loved ones, but you could be not remembering it. If it's happening at night, you could also be blocking them from coming through by needing them. So need to hear from a loved one, intense desire, almost to a point of sometimes like desperation or like when you said you're needing him and you're like praying for it to happen, that can create a block as well. And I know that's frustrating to hear, but it is the same law that applies to wanting something from somebody. That is the law of the universe of attraction. Law of attraction is when we grasp, we hold, we pull, we, right, are pushing it away. When we are open and we create flow of energy, we are attracting. So it applies to relationships with living or deceased people as well. And so that's just one of the things you need to start understanding about mediumship and how it really works, because there is also the law of the light, as I call it, which means that when a spirit has crossed over into the light, you could call it heaven, you could call it, higher dimensions, whatever, however you think of it. Once that happens, they have to abide by the law of the light. And that means that they are not allowed to come through and talk to you, visit you, pass on messages to you if it is going to do damage to you, if it's going to upset you, if it's going to keep you stuck and you're not going to continue to heal, whatever it is. They're not allowed to do that. So you have to learn language, you have to learn the laws, which are really, again, universal laws. So this applies to everything. I always say mediumship is the perfect metaphor for life, and it really is. All right. So you want to let him know, in the example here of your brother, that you are open to receiving from him. You may want to use some of my death coaching techniques, like asking him to come through and give you a specific symbol, asking him to come through and visit you in a dream, and saying, I look forward to that. I will embrace that, and leave it at that. Okay. And then when he does it, really work with him more, elongate it, really envelop yourself and become immersed in that experience, make it last, and it'll get stronger from that, like any other relationship. Okay. Absolutely. Can we hear from our loved ones? Yes. And we do. And we should. So I know a lot of the old time mediums, I don't know where they get this nonsense. They just will sell you ridiculous internationally. These trainings are horrible. They'll say things like, you can't read yourself. They'll say you can't read anyone close to you. They'll say that you can't receive from your deceased loved one. I'm like, what? Like that's just a way to become the middleman and make some money. None of that is true. All of it's a myth. So also erase what you've heard. Okay. Thank you so much for that question. Lori says, yes, it makes sense. And Manny says, thank you so much, Ivy. I can relate to all you mentioned. Good, good. And Manny, it's like we look at these older women and they seem so accomplished and so wise and so this and so that, but what they may have abandoned was themselves in order to get there in so many ways. And it really comes out, later in life. And so deconstructing, deprogramming, all of that, it takes so much work, and there's so many layers to that onion. We don't often realize how much it's there, and she may not, probably not a lot of it. Christina Hernandez says, how can I connect to someone's higher self or my own? Well, your higher self is always there. That would be the still small voice. That would be that godlike energy inside you, always guiding you. That would be your conscience. That would be that intuition that always trumps emotion, and it trumps logic. So don't forget, we have 3 different types of intelligence. We have intuitive intelligence, we have logic, and then we have emotional intelligence. And there are some free mini classes here on my YouTube at Ask Ivy. One's called Emotion versus Intuition. The other one is called Logic versus Intuition. I would start there. So get educated on which is which. When am I being ruled by my emotions? When am I being ruled by my logic or overthinking? When am I being ruled by my intuition? Remember that they don't match, okay? Your intuition can be telling you this is what you need to do. This is where you need to go. This is who you need to cut off. It could be something like that. And your emotion is fighting that tooth and nail to the grave, will not unclench, from whatever you're holding on to. And so we rarely have a pairing there. Logic, a little bit more so. Your logic will often match your intuition a bit more so than your emotion. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, your intuitive intelligence trumps everything. And that is one of the biggest skills to master in life. And Yeah, those 2 classes should help you to get there, to understand how to connect to your higher mind through intuitive intelligence, essentially. As far as someone else's, you can do what I instructed a couple other people to do today, which is you sort of sit down. I didn't get in depth, so I'll do that here. You're sort of sitting down. You may want to put on some music where there are no words, or the words aren't going to distract you or influence in any way. Maybe something more like drums or the sound of water or nature, something like that. Something that's not going to influence where your head is going, your thoughts. And you want to close your eyes, and then you want to call the other person forward. So it's sort of like you're visualizing that they're coming toward you. And then once they're about an arm's reach away from you, um, you can keep some personal space because this is going to get real personal. Uh, you're saying, okay, now I want to talk with you. And you're saying my higher mind wants to talk to your higher mind. This works well with people who are acting infantile, who are being problematic. If you have a boss who's like really nasty with you, a coworker, someone not doing what they need to do, but you're sort of stuck in an environment with them. Okay, there are a million different ways that you can use this. If you want to help someone to sort of evolve, if you want to fulfill a contract with somebody, but that's becoming more difficult, like a universal contract, and you're afraid you guys aren't going to finish the contract because the relationship is just not working. Don't ever tolerate something toxic, but there is a time to try to work on things, at least, and this can help dramatically. So you're saying my higher mind wants to speak to your higher mind. And then, and what you can combine with that is also my inner child wants to play with your inner child, which is essentially saying to them, you need to loosen up. Okay. You need to stop being so rigid. We need fluidity here. You're creating blocks. Let's be kids. So when you do both simultaneously, what can happen is that their most intelligent, intuitive self is a completely different person from their lower level earth bound current creature that they are. And it can be dramatic, it can be shocking, and it can be really encouraging to know that it's sort of like, I like to think of it like you're talking to their potential. Okay, anyways, I'm getting off track. I forgot what the question was, but it's essentially like, you're saying to them, if it were problematic, this is just an example. If it were a problem you guys are having, you would say, we really need to be working together better, and we really need to be da 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 da. And you may be shocked at what their higher mind says to you, okay, or the game plan you guys come up with. Now, expect to see an improvement in the relationship between the actual person for probably anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks, and then they often fall off again. You have to go back and redo it, and you have to gauge when it's worth your time and when it isn't. Lot can be done there in that other space. It's the same space where we work with people at night, working out karma. This is why in a lot of the sleep state, we're working with people. And even if we don't want to be, we're working on things. Okay. Lori says, thank you. I will do that. I have been told you can't read yourself. That is a complete myth. Again, these old timers, they want to make that cash, and they just regurgitate what the other old timers said before them, and if we couldn't read ourselves, like, what would be the point? None of us would be alive. You can read yourself. You can speak to your own ancestors and your deceased loved ones. Your psychic ability. That's your gut instinct. That's keeping you alive. When they say stuff like that, we really have to analyze who is saying something like that. That's a crazy thing. Now, you can get in your own way, but you have to learn to divide, your sort of opinions versus your actual intuition. So Christina said, thank you. You're very welcome. And we're going to move on to another one. We are at time. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I love doing this show. Please drop a comment, give some feedback. If this is a show you want to see me continue. I've been doing it for a couple months now, and I really do enjoy it. Also, if you need to book an actual reading, a party, or a psychic fair with me, you can go to Ivy Rivera, psychicmedium.com. And again, if you are in a totally different time zone and my availability is not working out with your availability because it's a self-booking system, just get a video reading and that solves all the problems right there. Hope to see you guys for the psychic mediumship course, and spiritual life coaching training starts tomorrow. So get in if you haven't already done so. Thank you, Jill. Thanks, Spirit. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Are you under my feet?